I'm hearing from you that you really like to study and that you also really like to impart that knowledge. Who were some of your teachers and what were some of the things that you received from your teachers?
This was, if I start to list off all of my teachers and influences, we'll be here forever. That would be assuming that I could remember everybody's
Yeah.
name. Um,
Notable.
yeah, absolutely. My first and foremost teacher has always been my mom. And as we were talking a little bit earlier, that my mom has taught drama, has directed plays, is very much the technical aspect, staging, costuming, lighting, this kind of stuff. She likes to be behind the stage, and
Yeah.
I'm a little happier on the stage. So that is very much my first training. Um, many ballet and jazz teachers in between. My very first belly dance teacher in Columbia, South Carolina, was Babs Flowers, and it was very AMCAB. And I unfortunately wasn't with her for very long. Maybe a few years later, Ramzi Adlibi in New York, I ran across him, and he's Lebanese and wonderful, just incredibly charismatic, beautiful dancer. Really, he's the one, and I don't know if he'll accept the credit, but he's the one that I credit with turning me on to the Arabic style, because I had all of these sort of AMCAB tools and I could dance. And then when I watched him dance and I listened to how he taught and dealt with the dance, I had all these tools that now I had to sort of do something else with, learning how to write with the pen, but in the other hand. Exactly. So all this other kind of stuff. So he really turned me on to this thinking. I have spent a great deal of time, and I'm very pleased and proud to say that I've worked with Mahmoud Reda, and incredibly invaluable pieces of time
What kind of
with
things
him. Mm.
did you get from Mahmoud?
Here's the thing. For me, I think the most interesting stuff from Mr. Reda was not even the time that I spent in classes. Because I've studied with him here in the States. I've spent time in Egypt with him. But I think my favorite time with him was time when I was in Egypt, and I just spent him, and I told him, I said, please, I just want to come and just be an anthropologist with you. I don't want to be a dancer with you. And he says, well, what does that mean exactly? And he said, well, I kind of just want to hang out, and if you go and study, I'll study with you, and if you go to the grocery store, I'll go to the grocery store with you, and if you don't mind me hanging out. And he was incredibly generous with his time and allowing me to just hang out. But to watch him, it's one thing to watch a dancer, but somebody like him, there's more than the dance. There's all of that experience. There's all of that social history that's there. There's all of that politic that he's had to deal with, and there's a process. And that was what was really interesting for me, was starting to get a little glimpse of the process, how it's built, why it's built. That was really wonderful and interesting for me. But there are so many teachers out there. For Persian dance, of course, I have to credit the people of Atlanta, the Greeks and the Persians and the Arabs and the Indians and everybody in Atlanta who's taught me little bits of dance, even when they didn't realize that they were teaching me little bits of dance. So I really have to credit those folks. Some of my favorite people, like Helene Erickson, for Persian dance. But the thing is, though, is that with lists like these, I'm going to leave somebody out.
Yes.
That I'm going to leave somebody out, which is really unfortunate.
Let me rephrase the question. What do you make sure you impart to your students that do you teach regular dance classes, and if so, what do you make sure you impart to your students, and that may be different? Apparently, though, you've received so much training from many teachers, but so we can just keep it to that simplicity of what do you make sure you impart to your students as a teacher?
Sure. I do teach regularly when I'm in Atlanta. I've cut back on my classes, and I'm down to a good handful of intermediate and advanced students. That's I did this intentionally. In the last couple of years, I've been doing more and more workshops, both nationally and internationally, and so I'm kind of putting more of my focus there. But my kids at home get to be my guinea pigs for all of that kind of stuff. I hope I teach the kind of dancer that I would like them to be, which is training the biggest dance muscle, which is this one right here. I really want my dancers to understand the construction of the dance, how your body works, how this style works, what is the body, what's the aesthetic, how is it built. The music, again, same thing. And this is one of the things that we just did with this CD right here. Shameless plug. This CD right here was built with George Sadak and Jonathan Durbach. Yeah. And it was built around just that concept about dancers really understanding how the music is built from the ground up. Those first beats, how is a CD built? How do they do that? What's in the musician's mind when it's built? When you understand how it's created, how it's constructed, you can deconstruct it. So this is the kind of dancer that I want, that has those tools, that has that body knowledge, that has that musical knowledge, that has that staging knowledge, right? That theater background. I want a dancer who understands the context. Why is she doing what she's doing? Somebody who can build a storyline for herself. And I want a dancer who can I want to give them those tools so that she can construct or deconstruct, not just copy. Copy blindly. There's so much copy, which is unfortunate. So, yeah. So I like to impart those kinds of things.